It was quite a large event. There were 60,000 worshipers there, 90 bishops, 500 priests, and of course, the Pope. So our system was deployed throughout his visit in the VIP use case. It's sort of a moving bubble of protection, if you will. And then the system itself was deployed on the ground level tactical way to provide full coverage and protection for the mass.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 352. How is it possible to stop a rogue drone when there are crowds of people nearby? For that question, we turn to Jeffrey Starr, Chief Marketing Officer at D-Fend Solutions. D-Fend Solutions is a technology company that supports the growth of safe and secure drone adoption with innovative solutions that defend against rogue drone threats. The company's EnforceAir system has protected some of the world's most important leaders, gatherings, and organizations from the threat of rogue drones, including the G7 Summit and championship sporting events with tens of thousands of fans in attendance. Their non-jamming, non-kinetic solution has been selected as a best-in-class radio frequency cyber-takeover system. In September 2021, a rogue drone appeared over a large public mass held by Pope Francis in Slovakia. The threat was neutralized by EnforceAir without any disruption. Jeffrey brings a track record of generating revenue and building market leadership through visionary business strategies. Prior to joining D-Fend Solutions, Jeffrey served as CMO and executive roles at AlgoSac, Celebrite, Veris 3E, Magic Software Enterprises, and Amdocs. He also served as general partner at Mission Ventures VC Fund and as an analyst at Booz Allen. In this edition of the Drone Radio Show, Jeffrey talks about D-Fend Solutions, the company's innovative EnforceAir drone detection and mitigation system, and how it successfully and safely neutralized a drone threat to Pope Francis in 2021. But before we hear from Jeffrey, I want to thank those of you who are supporting my funding campaign. Whether it's $1, $100, or much more, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. Go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And by the way, if you have a great story on the use of drones that you'd like to share in a podcast, contact me at randy@droneradioshow.com. So let's learn how to remove rogue drones safely with Jeffrey Starr of D-Fend Solutions. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Jeffrey to introduce himself.
Sure. Hi, this is Jeffrey Starr. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of D-Fend Solutions.
Jeffrey, tell us about D-Fend Solutions. What does the company do?
Our vision is really helping to enable a more prosperous drone-powered society. We realize that drones are changing in the world. There's a whole new drone economy. They bring value and benefits to millions of people around the world. They're reshaping the way society functions and changing all kinds of fields and industries. And all that's positive and wonderful and great. And we want to safeguard that. As these drones proliferate, as the drone sky gets more and more crowded, there are some risks associated. There's a small portion of bad actors. There's inexperienced operators. And these users can cause tremendous damage. So by mitigating this threat in a safe, controlled way, this kind of helps us support the emerging drone-powered society. And that's who we are and what we do. We're a counter-drone takeover technology provider. We focus on threats from potentially dangerous drones so that organizations and security agencies around the world can maintain full control of a dangerous drone incident in a complex or sensitive environment and be prepared for future threats. And we do that with our main product. It's called EnforceAir. And that automatically executes a RF cyber takeover of rogue drones or dangerous drones in order to get a safe landing and safe outcome. I'm sure we'll talk more about that in more detail later. But again, the main mission here is to enable the drone society to proceed uninterrupted and ensure a smooth flow of communications, commerce, transportation, everyday life in the context of the new emerging new drone society.
Before we get into the technology and EnforceAir, why is there a need for a company like D-Fend Solutions?
The issue here is drones, in a positive way, they're becoming faster, they're becoming stronger, but as they become faster, they're also becoming harder to detect, they're becoming more durable, they're flying long distances, they can carry very heavy payloads, they're easier to operate, they're easier to access, and this makes them potentially pose greater safety and security risks to almost every kind of environment. I'm sure many of the listeners have seen these stories of incidents in the news, whether it be against militaries, law enforcement. You had the other day drones flying around a power plant. They can be used to smuggle drugs into prisons or smuggle things across borders, disrupt events, and pose dangers to aircraft and all kinds of risks. It became very clear with all the growth in incidents that there's a definite risk. Now, there are technologies, there are conventional, traditional technologies. Many of them came from the military sphere to deal with this. And this is what I call conventional UAS. And it's important to make a distinction between two different functions here, the detection side and the mitigation side. So, of course, first you have to detect a potentially dangerous drone, and then, of course, you have to mitigate it or deal with it or defeat it somehow. You asked about the existing situation, and most of these technologies came even from before drones, when you just had any kind of flying object representing a threat. So let's say on the detection side, radars. Radars are tried and true technology, a great technology to have a role. But with drones, there's potential shortcomings with radars. For example, they may generate a lot of false positives. They may fail to detect the difference between a drone and a flock of birds. So that's a radar detection. You have other detection technologies which are acoustic, based on sound. But again, in today's environment, where drones are becoming quieter and environments like airports or stadiums are becoming noisier, sound detection becomes increasingly difficult. You have optical-based methods, but they require a clear line of sight. And in an urban environment with lots of tall buildings or in a mountainous terrain, the dangerous drone may kind of not be in a line of sight, maybe lurking behind something. That's on the detection side. And on the mitigation side, it's even more complicated because, again, the traditional technologies were basically in two categories. One is jamming. And jamming is when you, of course, flood the communications between the remote control and the drone and disconnect them by, that outburst. But the problem with jamming is twofold. One, it's only temporary. So the effect only lasts as long as the jamming lasts, and then the pilot could regain control of the dangerous drone. And also, jamming doesn't only disrupt that connection, it disrupts other things in the area. So you have other kinds of communications, whether it be GPS, cell phones, security communications, whatever, that can also be disrupted. So jamming is less than ideal in certain environments. And then the other way to deal with it is the very classical method of something kinetic. Kinetic meaning physical, basically meaning shooting it. Shooting it can mean many different things: bullets, artillery, lasers, magnetic fields, drone killing drones, throwing a net on it. People have even trained birds to attack drones. There's all kinds of physical methods. And there, the disadvantages are obvious. If you miss the drone, you can have collateral damage with the projectile land somewhere else. And even if the drone is hit, what goes up must come down, and the drone falls down and could fall down and injure someone or damage property. So there's the potential of collateral damage there. So those were the traditional methods to deal with the problem. And we came with a new solution, which I guess when we talk about our technology and product, we can talk about that. But we basically came into being to address all those shortcomings with a new way of dealing with the drone threat.
Let's start with detection. How does D-Fend Solutions detect drones?
Our method, our technology, is based on RF radio frequency cyber detection and mitigation. So on the detection side, we're monitoring and scanning all the time, and we actually detect the communication signal between the remote control, the drone pilot, and the drone. And once we detect that, we kind of have this full incident lifecycle coverage, which I'll kind of walk us through, starting, like you said, with the detection. Once that detection is made, there's an alert. And this system can be passive, it's long distance, it can be autonomous, or it can be manned. Again, you don't need a clear line of sight. It doesn't matter if the environment is noisy. Once it's detected, once that RF signal is detected, there's from that point on locating and tracking, locating not only the drone itself in its GPS position, but also locating its takeoff point where the pilot is. So depending, of course, on regulations and law enforcement and the situation, you can apprehend or go to speak to or contact or whatever the pilot, as well as tracking the drone itself. But again, it's passive, it's accurate, no line of sight required. And then the drone is actually identified. And we identify its unique characteristics in terms of the make, the manufacturer, the protocols, and all the identifying factors of that drone. And very importantly, we distinguish if it's an authorized friendly drone, because many drones operating in these kind of areas, and we want that work to continue unimpeded. We don't want to do anything that hurts the authorized drone. So that's identified. And at the same time, as I mentioned, we're discovering the pilot, identifying the pilot, where that location is. And then what's different from here than the other technologies, and I know I've already moved beyond the detection into the mitigation, but at that point, there's control. There's a decision based on the security agency's processes. And you can, for example, at this point, do a fend off. A fend off is where the drone is sent back to where it came from, back to its original pilot location, or alternatively, a full mitigation, where we actually take control of the drone. We actually take control of it and put it on a new path to a designated zone for a safe landing and a safe outcome, and according to that exact path. So, it's a very different potential outcome from just jamming or shooting it down, where you don't really know what the final outcome is. We're very focused on controlling the situation and making an incident not become an incident, if you will, and a much more controlled outcome. It's really, we like to talk about 4 concepts that lead to a 5th one. So above all, it's control. Unlike the other technologies, we think the best way to control an incident is to control the drone itself, take control of the drone. So control, and then safety, make sure it's a safe landing, a safe outcome for the airspace and for all the people and property. Focus on really the most dangerous drones, not the friendly drones, of course. In the future, make sure, we're always thinking a drone threat ahead of the next potential risk. So all of these together, though, kind of roll up into one of our main value points, which is continuity. We want continuity. We want, like I said, the incident not to become an incident. We want continuity to prevail. We want everything to proceed unhindered, whether it be communications, commerce, transportation, everyday life, to proceed without this becoming an incident and without operational disruption. So that's kind of how a drone incident unfolds with EnforceAir.
Is it fair to say that what differentiates D-Fend Solutions from other companies is the ability to take control of a drone?
Yeah, that's definitely correct. That's our main advantage, basically taking control and landing it, and therefore mitigating the risk without all those disadvantages of the other technologies that I mentioned. It's, end-to-end full incident lifecycle. The other, I would say, strong differentiator is the operational flexibility. We have multiple deployment options. For example, this can be on a vehicle, either a military vehicle or a civilian covert undercover vehicle. It can be tactical, meaning, quickly set up, deployed, then quickly dismantled and moved. And that can be either at a ground level or a different version, different antennas for high altitude, on top of buildings or mountaintops. And then we have more permanent fixture stationary deployments that, again, are also high altitude. Or, you may need this kind of omnidirectional coverage, like a big dome of protection, or you might need a long-range directional kind of approach where you need to protect, longer range, like corridors, airspace corridors and things like that. And we have that version as well. So there's all these 6 different deployments. So that kind of flexibility is a big differentiator as well. Our performance, our ability to handle the most dangerous drones, the autonomy, the low power, the small footprint, the flexibility of the deployment, and all the different configurable mitigation methods. So those are, I would say, some of our main differentiators. And then, of course, we're very proud that we're proven. We're chosen by some of the top tier federal government and national government agencies around the world. And we've been selected for large scale events. So we're proven and tested. And because of this, we're able to support a lot of different sectors and use cases.
Is there an example that you can share?
Not too long ago, Interpol, which you may know is the global organization to foster cooperation between police all around the world, kind of the UN of police, if you will. So the Interpol had a major, really the first time ever they did a cross-technology demonstration event in Norway at the airport in Oslo, Norway. And they demonstrated many, many different technologies at the airport. And we were the only RF cyber counter-drone takeover technology vendor there. And we successfully demonstrated the product without any prior calibration, without having to do a practice run or anything like that. It was very authentic. And I think most of the audience was quite impressed. Again, there were a lot of these conventional technologies were being demonstrated there. We were the only RF cyber takeover technology demonstrated at that event.
Turning to EnforceAir specifically, is the system designed to be part of an overall unmanned traffic management or counter-UAS system? Or is it envisioned as a standalone system?
No, that's an excellent question. Well, the answer is both. Clients use us both ways. We do advocate a layered defense approach when that's required. We never claim to be the end-all and be-all for everything. So if people want to use us in the context of a layered defense, as I mentioned before, those other technologies are tried and true and have their role. So we will complement radars or jammers or kinetic methods when clients want multiple options for various reasons. So we are strong advocates of being in a layered defense. There are clients, though, that use us as their sole or main solution for all the advantages I mentioned. So it's both. And we realize that the future is a layered integrated defense with multiple options and a holistic view. So there's a lot of integrations in the counter-drone ecosystem, and we're happy to play a role in that.
In the United States, the ability to take control of a drone is limited. Are there other regulatory hurdles?
I wouldn't call them hurdles. I mean, there's regulations and rules in place that we have to comply and conform with. And so you're right. In the US, there is a distinction between those with approval for detection and those with authority for mitigation. And currently, in general, the mitigation authority is with federal agencies, and that works. And but we're, of course, watching these regulations, a lot of the regulatory reform taking place, and people are looking at the possibility of having some of that regulatory authority devolve to more local levels or to more site levels. So we're working closely and of course, in contact with the regulators, and we will be prepared for whichever direction those regulations go. And the situation is different in every country, by sector and by use case. So different countries, it's different regulatory authorities that can use this kind of mitigation capability. And that's why there are customers who only use us for detection, for all the advantages that we have, with an eye to maybe using us in the future for mitigation, if and when the regulations evolve. And then, of course, there's other customers that have full detection and mitigation approval or authority, and they use us for the full incident lifecycle, of course.
When a rogue drone appeared over a large public mass, led by Pope Francis in Slovakia on September 15th, the threat was neutralized by the EnforceAir system without any disruption to the worshippers. Can you talk about that incident?
Yeah, we were very proud and happy to play a role in safeguarding the visit of the Pope to Slovakia. Throughout his visit, culminating in a mass. So this is interesting. It's a convergence of two use cases, both what we call VIP protection, as well as an event, a mass event, in this case, an actual mass event protection. It was quite a large event. There were 60,000 worshipers there, 90 bishops, 500 priests, and of course, the Pope. So our system was deployed throughout his visit in the VIP use case. It's sort of a moving bubble of protection, if you will. And then the system itself was deployed on the ground level tactical way to provide full coverage and protection for the mass, which culminated his visit. It's an interesting use case because there were a lot of challenges associated with that. There was, I would call it a high RF interference environment, because when you have an event like that, there's a lot of antennas, there's a lot of communications, there's a lot of drones, authorized drones, friendly drones for the communications and for security. So it's really important to be able to authorize and distinguish between those friendly allowed drones and rogue or hostile or unwanted, unapproved drones. And sure, there was, as can happen at these events, there was an unapproved or unknown, originally, drone that was detected by the system. There was consideration given to jamming, but there was issues there of disrupting the communication system, the media transmissions, and all the obvious communications in the area. So the decision was made to fend off using EnforceAir, sending it back to its original takeoff position, far away from the large crowd. We have testimonial from the Slovakian security authorities about how this was handled and how they were able to take control of the incident. And that's something our team feels it's quite an honor to be trusted with this kind of technology for events and to help with countries with their homeland security and law enforcement. So I think that was a very recent event. Like you're saying, it got a lot of media coverage. There's quite a few articles about it that can be read in the public domain. And I think it's interesting because it's a classic use case, which, as I said, combines two different use cases of counter-drone protection, namely protecting a VIP wherever that VIP goes throughout a country, and protecting a mass event that has tens of thousands of people present.
I think it also shows the mobility of the system as well, that you're able to take it on the road. Is it easy to transport?
In the vehicle itself, there's a vehicular deployment that can kind of be dual use for mobile or ad hoc, sort of static, and it can be combined with our other ground level kits. But it's mounted and transferred between vehicles or from one situation to another, literally within minutes. And, there are videos available on our website of the system being set up and dismantled, and it's really minutes. It's incredibly light and easy and transportable in that sense. So that's one element of what you're talking about, which is actually while the situation is in motion and the vehicle's moving. But the other situation, which you're also referring to, is when it's on the go, but making stops along the way. And there also we have a very tactical kit that can provide complete support. And again, it's set up on the ground very quickly in minutes, with a tripod or the appropriate antennas, and everything is deployed quite quickly for that type of situation. Can really be set up and or dismantled and moved in minutes. It's really remarkable. And we've contrasted that with other technologies, which can take hours depending on which technology.
I'd like to turn our attention to the company. First, how long has D-Fend Solutions been in operation?
We're approaching our fifth year now. So the company was founded around 1718. And so we've been growing quite fast. We're going to be getting close to 200 employees pretty soon. So still not giant, but definitely going through a period of hyper growth. We have offices around the world. Our U.S. headquarters is in the Washington, D.C. area, for obvious reasons, very focused on security and the public sector. But we have offices and staff throughout the world, throughout Europe. We also have staff in Asia and Japan. We have R&D and headquarters in Israel. So we're quite globally deployed and growing quite rapidly. We've quadrupled the number of countries that we're in just in the last year or two. So we're definitely getting a lot of attraction and excitement, which we're happy about.
Who are the members of the leadership team?
The founders are the CEO and chairman, Zohar Halachmi, and the president and VP product is Yaniv Ben-Benisti, and the CTO is Asaf Monsa. All of them have quite impressive technology and business backgrounds. They've been with other successful technology companies, big and small. So it's really a great leadership.
What was it about the company that drew you to it and to the position of Chief Marketing Officer?
That's an interesting question. Actually, it's a great question because personally, I've been through the roller coaster of startups, IPOs, acquisitions, M&As, hyper growth, small companies, medium companies, and very, very large companies. And, I had been working recently as a CMO of a few different software companies in the security field. And I was quite happy and satisfied with what I was doing. And I actually did not originally think I would go back to the early stage startup world. But I was approached by the CEO, and he told a really compelling, exciting story about this company and what it's trying to achieve. And what's wonderful about us, as I said at the very beginning, is, sure, our technology is counter-drone, but we're really, at the end of the day, very pro-drone. We're really enabling the drone society to flourish because we only focus on the dangerous drones and we allow the regular approved drones who are doing so much to help society and to help economies and to help people to flourish. The idea of being at the convergence of both the drone world and the cyber world was just too fascinating a story to turn down. And that's why I jumped over to D-Fend.
What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs?
It's interesting because we've just had an offsite where we were focusing on our mission and vision, some of which I've described. And I think that's really important. I think if you really want to be a very successful company in the technology realm specifically, first of all, you definitely need a strong differentiator. It's not enough to just be in technology to be faster, cheaper, or better. We're really presenting a technology paradigm shift. That has challenges. There's a lot of market education required, and that's where I spend most of my time, including this discussion today. But that's one thing. Make sure that there's a strong differentiator that brings a lot of value that otherwise it wasn't there before. And then the second, of course, is have a really inspiring and exciting and fascinating story to tell, a vision. And that's, I think, a big part of what our CEO has been promoting. And all of us, when we evangelize around the world, is this notion of helping the new drone economy flourish, because the drones themselves are bringing so much positive value and benefit to every single realm. I mean, construction, agriculture, security, inspections, wildlife preservation, deliveries, you name it. Drones are, in a positive way, proliferating in every single vertical industry, in every single sector. And that's all positive. But to be an enabler of that, by helping to safeguard the risks and dangers associated with it in order that the positive components can flourish. It's just a very, very exciting story and very compelling. And it's something that's just, putting us on a very positive trajectory.
What might we expect to see in the future in regard to counter-UAS?
Well, I think it will continue to grow and penetrate into more sectors. As drones enter new sectors and new environments, you need to have the counter-drone element alongside that. So, for example, mission-critical infrastructure will need protection. Prisons will need protection, and it goes on. So you'll see this actually grow in sector by sector. The other thing is the sites themselves will need more and more coverage. So that's why, for example, we've come out with something we call MSC2, which gives the ability to deploy multiple sensors, multiple versions of our system, but be able to have it managed and viewed and monitored from a central interface. So that's, I think you'll see more technology growing in that area. The main thing that we're focused on is always staying a drone threat ahead. So we realize that more and more drones are going to come out, some of them by the drone manufacturers and some of them just do-it-yourself drones built from off-the-shelf components. And we realize they're going to get stronger for positive reasons. They're going to fly longer distances, and carrier-heavy payloads, and they're going to be more durable. They'll be able to fly in all kinds of weather and adverse conditions, and they're going to be cheaper, and they're going to be more accessible. So that has positive elements, of course, but there's risk associated with, and that's what we're doing. We're monitoring that and we're penetrating that, and we're always trying to stay one step ahead of that in order that the positive drones can flourish, but the dangerous drones will be detected and mitigated and defeated.
And for my final question, Jeffrey, what message would you like to leave regarding the future of the drone industry?
Even though we're counter-drone, we're very pro-drone. We want to enable the new drone economy, but we're always recognizing the threat, always monitoring it. We're proud of who's tested us and selected us. We're there for many different scenarios, whether it be military, law enforcement, national security, airports, borders, ports and harbors, as I mentioned, VIP, maritime, events, stadiums, media, prisons. It just goes on, how many use cases there are. And, above all, we're focused, as I mentioned before, on control, safety, focus, and future, ultimately leading to continuity. That's it. We hope to work with our customers and the operators to stay a drone threat ahead and be ready for the next threat over the horizon from a drone, but also safeguarding all the positive applications and utilizations and operations and installations of drones all around the world.
That's it for episode 352 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Jeffrey Starr of D-Fend Solutions. I want to thank Jeffrey for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about D-Fend Solutions or want to connect with Jeffrey, check out the website at defendsolutions.com, and it's spelled d-fendsolutions.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.